Good afternoon and welcome back to the Law and Crime Network. I'm Linda Kenny Bodden and I will be with you for the next 3 hours. And what a 3 hours it is, because we have so much of the latest trial news to discuss. A lot of topics to talk about today. We are in verdict watch, as you know, in the Take Care of Maya civil trial, and we're keeping an eye on a hearing later on for Jeffrey Williams, also known as Young Thug, on whether his song lyrics will be used in court. We're also following up on the eye drop murder trial, where the state has rested and we are in the defense case. So we'll have to wait and see if that defendant there, Jesse Cherchevsky, will decide to take the stand. But first, we're going to begin our coverage with the latest in Alex Murdaugh's double murder case in South Carolina. Yes, he's back. Back in September, he filed a motion for a new trial, claiming the clerk of the court tampered with the jury. The prosecutors on the case have now responded, and with us we have our very own Angenette, who will fill us in on what this is all about. Angenette, the Attorney General's office is firing back.
Yeah, they certainly are, Linda. Good afternoon to you. You know, this was a bombshell when Alex Murdaugh's attorneys dropped this motion for a new trial with the appeals court back in September. We were all frankly stunned. And they claimed that Clerk of Court, Rebecca Hill, who was a fixture at the Colleton County Courthouse during this trial, tampered with the jury. She then wrote a book following the verdict about her experience with the case and her feelings that Alex Murdaugh is guilty. She's also given many interviews as an elected official discussing her feelings about this. And the defense in this case had basically said Alex Murdaugh is entitled to a new trial because you had the clerk of court with her thumb on the scale talking with the jurors, opining on the evidence, encouraging them to reach a swift verdict. And now the Attorney General's office is kind of saying, you know, not so fast there, Alex Murdaugh. We have talked to some of the jurors. Some did not hear this stuff. Some did. In the filing from the prosecutors, there are some of the jurors who said they didn't really hear her talk about evidence, but maybe they did hear her say things to the effect of, look at his body language. Oh, there's going to be graphic images, things of that nature. So Alex Murdaugh's attorneys say that's still enough to warrant a new trial. Some of these jurors heard these comments. Some say they did not. So there may be an evidentiary hearing in order here. We just don't know. But Clerk of Court Rebecca Hill, has filed a sworn affidavit with the court denying that she said any of these things. And she goes line by line saying, I didn't say this, I didn't do this, I didn't say that. So she's denying this in a sweeping affidavit that had been filed with the prosecution's response to Murdaugh's motion for a new trial. Back at CrimeCon in late September, I had the chance to sit down with Dick Harpootlian and Jim Griffin, the two lawyers representing Alex Murdaugh, and we talked about their feelings about their motion for a new trial and why they said they believed he was entitled to a new trial. They discussed a few different things that they felt entitled their client to a second chance. So take a listen.
One of the interesting aspects is they all report that once the jury went out, they were told, you're not going home. You know, if you don't reach a verdict quickly, we're going to have you put up for the night. And you 6 smokers that we've given smoking breaks to for the last 6 weeks, no more smoking breaks. So you don't get to smoke a cigarette until you reach a verdict. I've never heard of such a thing. So it's that kind of hotboxing. Somebody wanted a quick verdict, and we're going to make the folks with nicotine addiction have to suffer withdrawal until they reach the verdict.
And, you know, I've been doing this 35 plus years. Dick's doing it 50 years, and this is unheard of. And, you know, these jurors that have came forward on their own free will, and they have nothing to gain by giving us this information. In fact, you know, they're putting themselves out there, and shows real courage. But there's no doubt in our mind they're telling us.
So there was Jim Griffin and Alex Murdaugh's other attorney, Dick Harpootlian, talking about why they believed he was entitled to a new trial, the misconduct they feel occurred with the jury deliberations on the part of the clerk of court, who is denying any wrongdoing. And you can be assured that they will probably be responding to what the prosecution has filed with the court. The prosecution is basically asking Judge Newman to just deny this outright and strike a lot of what was stated by the defense in their motion. But I think they realize that's likely not going to happen. And they're saying in the alternative, let's have an evidentiary hearing so we can flesh out these issues, gather some testimony, and see what is going on. But still, the prosecution says we still want you to deny that motion for a new trial. So there's a lot going on with this, Linda. A lot still that will be litigated. And I can safely say, in talking with Dick Harpootlian and Jim Griffin, they are not giving up. I mean, they are
Right.
going to keep swinging for the fences as far as this case goes.
Well, they're very good lawyers, but I had a question, Angenette. I mean, I think it's an unpopular opinion. When this first came out, I think a lot of lawyers said, well, we've never seen this kind of jury tampering. Now, two things, really, an A and a B to you. First, Becky Hill, she didn't take the Fifth Amendment, so she's denying that she did any criminal action, which is surprising. But the second thing is, if the jurors come back and there is a hearing granted, which I think there has to be, if the jurors merely say that this did not affect their decision, no matter what they heard, game over for the new trial, right, Angenette?
Well, that very well could be, Linda, but we have the other issue of the juror, the egg lady, we called her, who was dismissed during closing arguments, and she was replaced with an alternate juror whose brother happened to be a Colleton County Sheriff's deputy who responded to the scene that night. We had talked with that gentleman. His name was James, and he was very well spoken. But this egg lady juror says that basically she claims in her conversations with the defense that she was lied about, that Becky Hill lied about her to the judge and misrepresented things that had happened with her, that she claimed she'd been out talking about this case with her tenants. She was a landlord. And she says, I didn't do that, you know, and she's saying people were intimidated. So there is so much going on with this case. And so the defense is saying, we don't know. Would she have been a holdout? It's very likely she would have been a holdout. So I just feel like they are leaving no stone unturned. We obviously have conflicting statements from jurors who've spoken to the defense and jurors who've spoken to the state. But I do think it's interesting if you look at that response from the state. Some of these jurors do say that Becky Hill did make some comments about evidence and about other things. Others say she did not.
But the comments would have to affect their verdict, I think, in this case, to give them a new trial. And there was so much evidence here. Remember, he is serving, and I neglected to mention, 2 life sentences for killing his wife and his son, Paul, and he won't get out. But if we get to a hearing, isn't the first issue, does the court have to grant a hearing? And and that's another A. And then B, there's also a motion to recuse Judge Newman that didn't go to Judge Newman but went to the Supreme Court of the state. Could you tell us how this whole issue intertwines? Who's going to be deciding whether or not there is a hearing?
Yeah, Linda, as I said, there's a lot going on here. And yes, first, A, as you said, let's start with letter A. The judge would have to decide whether an evidentiary hearing is necessary. Murdaugh's lawyers are adamant he will get a hearing. They think it'll happen before the end of the year. We'll see. And yes, they are also seeking to have Judge Clifton Newman, who's highly regarded in the state of South Carolina, removed from this case. They say that he's given interviews after the case about this. He spoke at his alma mater about the case. He's opined on Alex Murdaugh's guilt. And he's also retiring at the end of the year. Keep in mind as well, this was filed with the state Supreme Court. It didn't go to Judge Newman. And a lot of people are saying, wait. You should have filed this with Judge Newman first, not gone to the state Supreme Court. And so there's a lot going on. And there's also a trial for the financial crimes. Remember, we have all the financial crimes aside from the murder case that still have to be litigated. And there's a trial set to start on that on November 27th. Do we think that's going to happen with all of this mess going on? I just don't know. So there is a lot going on. You will see people who support the prosecution saying that the defense is just trying to pull a rabbit out of the hat and they're trying whatever they can. But the defense is saying, look, we think there's a new trial in order and we don't think Judge Newman should be presiding. And he could still preside, I guess, even after he retires. He could be kept on in some capacity by the state Supreme Court, because I think they're really the ones who assigned him all of these cases to preside over with regard to Alex Murdaugh.
Angenette, let me now go, comma, okay? It seems to me that if Alex Murdaugh is
We've got a lot of punctuation
a lot of punctuation going on here, and I'm sure that everyone's putting their list together. It seems to me Alex Murdaugh is serving all this time on other crimes, some he pleaded guilty to. Is there some benefit to him then financially to get the murder trial, the murder convictions reversed? Does he get a financial benefit? Because he's going to be in jail. I mean, it's not like he's coming out and going partying with us next weekend.
You know, I don't really know if there is a financial benefit. We don't know if he's benefited financially at all from anything. I mean, his money, any money he has, which is not a lot, as far as we know, is in a receivership. It's court-ordered receivers are overseeing that. They're trying to figure out whether or not Alex Murdaugh and his family benefited financially from that Fox Nation documentary. They've issued subpoenas seeing whether or not Buster Murdaugh benefited in some fashion from licensing home videos and things like that were featured in that documentary. So I don't know if he benefits financially at all. We also have the federal case in which he's pleaded guilty to all of these financial crimes in federal court. So Alex Murdaugh is going to spend more than likely the rest of his life in prison, whether it's on the murder charges or the financial crimes charges. I mean, I just don't think the feds are going to let him go very quickly. And plus, you've got the state cases that will be pending. The state says, we're moving forward. We don't care if he has pleaded guilty in federal court. So I don't know if there really is any financial benefit to him at all, because any money that can be traced to him is going to the victims in this case.
Okay, so let me wrap this up with the question, because you are the person who knows everything about this case. Will he get a hearing on the claims that his defense attorneys have filed about the improper conduct by Becky Hill? And if he does get a hearing, is this conviction going to be reversed?
Well, you are at, that is quite the question, two loaded questions there. You know, I think a hearing is possible, Linda. You know, I think we still have to see how the defense responds. And we really have to look at the law in this case in South Carolina. You know, the prosecution doesn't think that another trial should happen. I'm pretty sure they don't want to retry this case. Why would they? They got the conviction that they wanted. But I think that it's very possible that an evidentiary hearing could be ordered, because we do have some things that are conflicting here with regard to statements made by certain jurors. One thing that is an issue is that there is an affidavit that a paralegal for Alex Murdaugh's legal team filed with their motion for a new trial, quoting a juror who didn't sign an affidavit. So you've got things like that where it's like, you know, legally, does that hold water? Can you really do that? Can we grant a new hearing based on this? They may, just to protect his rights, have a hearing, have an evidentiary hearing, and see whether or not there is any there. I'm sure the state would think that this would be a fishing expedition then for the defense, but we'll just have to wait and see. I do think it's worth mentioning, too, we had heard during the trial, especially approaching verdict time, that Clerk Hill was having conversations with the jury foreperson. So they may bring this woman in, the foreperson, and put her under oath as well. A new trial, you know how hard that is, Linda. I'm just not so sure that he is going to get a new trial, but we will have to wait and see how this unfolds. It's very difficult in some instances to obtain a new trial. The misconduct has to be pretty explicit. And so we just have to see whether or not the jurors were indeed influenced by Becky Hill if she did make these comments.
Angenette Levy, I know you don't have a law degree, but I think you answer those questions better than any lawyer could, because why? You know more about this case than anyone, and it's so great to see you again here. And of course, you belong to Law and Crime and all the viewers. I'll see you later on.
Good to see you, Linda.
All right. And when we come back, on the other side, we'll be talking about another possible homicide case, what's been deemed the eyedrop murder case, the case of Jessie Kerchevsky. Will she take the stand in her own defense? Wait and see on the other side.